Good afternoon, everybody. It's John Ross with the XPian Daily Report. And today we're very fortunate to have a special guest just at this time coming around with the elections coming around. And we're going to have Dr. Vincent Bacote of Wheaton College. Dr. Vince is, you're going to have to tell me, you're in history or in ethics?
Theology. I teach theology and I direct the Center for Applied Christian Ethics.
Okay, that's how it was. Okay.
Yes, that's how it works. Yes.
Yeah, I know you write on politics and other things, so everything here. So a few days ago, there was an article that came out that I really saw a signature was Dr. Vince was on this. It was a group called Christians Against Trumpism and Political Extremism. And I have it on my website, a news release from that group. And I believe the top person who really, one of the people got it going was Michael Weir, a former White House official with President Obama. Is that correct, Vince, maybe?
Well, so he's not the catalyst for it. The catalyst for it is a guy named John Kingston.
Okay, well,
ran for office in Massachusetts, and John Kingston and a guy named Joe Searby, who's worked with running campaigns and stuff. They, I would say, are sort of the leading edge of it. It's part, and I'll say it's connected with something called American Awakening that John's been thinking about, and I did say John Kingston, right? Not John Singleton, right?
No, you said Kingston.
Okay, good, because I heard Singleton in my head. So I know that's the recently deceased, movie guy. But but basically, the idea here is to try to encourage people to have just a more, not just civil politics, but constructive politics. That's why it's called Against Trumpism and political extremism. So, because the point is less about the president itself, but that, you might say that we have had a culmination in the last, several years of an approach to discourse that's been, more about fanning the flames of anger and discontent and firing people up. Arguably, if you're firing up one side, you're also firing up another, really, and trying to instead propose an approach to politics that is really seeking the good of persons and people from a range of different backgrounds, religious backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, political backgrounds, people being committed to working together towards a better world, rather than making so much of a we, they, us, them type of approach to things, where we are, pure and good, and they are perhaps the devil. So it's really trying to create.
I've been on the devil's side before, maybe.
Well,
people can accuse you of
some people may think that any of us could be a devil, unfortunately. But
yeah, well, if you're not on a certain side, you might be. Some would say that almost.
That there is that opinion, yes.
Or if you're not of this side, you're not, quote, a Christian, or we can go a list like that.
Sure,
you're not a good Christian.
I think it's important, especially the week before the election, to say something about that kind of thing, which is, it is understandable, and I hope proper, that people's faith is giving them a frame for how they're seeing our political reality, and their faith is giving them commitments, which commitments may lead them to magnify certain political issues other than others. But I think the idea that if you're really a Christian, you would only vote one way or another strangely seems to connect the ends of the United States with the ends of the gospel, which is kind of funny, because I think it shows that we're missing something, because the United States, as great as a country as it is a not mentioned in the Bible. In fact, no Western Hemisphere country is. But
Yeah, right.
on top of that, I think it's important to highlight the fact that, just as there are different denominations, and you can say that people from different denominations highlight different practices, different doctrines. Are Christians from different backgrounds, different experiences, will skew towards one side or another, because certain issues are the ones that stand out to them as ones that we ought to care about and have some kind of engagement with those issues to seek a better world. So for that reason, some people are Republicans, some are Democrats, some are Green Party people, some are independents, etc. And we have to be, I think, wary of thinking that any of us see so clearly about what the relationship is between God and our political ends in this country, that we can pronounce who's authentically Christian on the basis of who they vote for. Right. And even if people say, how could you vote for somebody who is causing the deaths of these unborn children? Let's go with that one. I mean, I would just want to ask those same people, what do you think about the deaths of those children after they're born? Especially when you have just a significant proportion of people that, might be the demographic where you're saying most abortions happen. Those people who take those kids to term. Well, what are going to be the life possibilities of a lot of those kids, right, if they're in these distressed situations? And what are you doing about those distressed situations? Do you then say, I want to save that kid's life, but then I want to blame them for not pulling themselves up by their bootstraps because they're born in poverty or in situations with poor schooling, food deserts, lack of economic investment, etc. Not that it's all from the outside. I mean, there's the personal responsibility dimension, but it's not strictly personal responsibility, because you can be as personally responsible as you want, but if you're in an environment that doesn't create the access to even know what an opportunity is, much less exercise your agency with that opportunity, that's a difficult circumstance. So all to say is that there are lots of different things that I understand the Bible can say, hey, this is an important issue. Right. And for some people, that's why they're Democrats, and for some people, it's why Republicans. In both cases, there are things any of us can say, well, what about that? Right. About the other side. Right. So we have to be really careful, I think, to be aware of making pronunciations about what, of course, a Christian could do, because it presumes that, one, that a single issue is really only a single issue, as opposed to other issues being connected with whatever that thing is. And then that just the idea that we know that much. We don't see that much. We don't see that clearly. So to make these kinds of pronouncements, I think, is great if you're in an echo chamber, not so great if you get to know lots of people.
Yeah, I think what your group is, well, maybe I hope I'm not contributing to this other part, but I think our foreign adversaries, and I think one of them is, I would put it up as the devil also, is chaos. That is, it seems like the play that works best for the devil and our foreign adversaries, if we can just have more chaos. And maybe, I think sometimes with our two-party system, it can lead to these extremes somewhat, because other systems of a democracy are parliamentarian, and they split up more. These little nuances may be better. I don't know, but anyway, so we really gotta try to pull this together. And I know you're trying to do that even after this election too, right? I mean, it's going to be
right.
It's going to be Christians on. I'll have to say this: I disagree with some of these other Christian brothers and sisters, but we're going to have some way to get back together here.
Yes. Well, and I think the way that we get together is we actually find out more about each other's lives.
That's
And
true.
we ask more questions rather than presuming that because of how someone voted or because how we think they voted, that tells us everything we need to know about them.
Right.
Maybe for a few people, it really does.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, we need to do with them the same thing that we want someone to do for us. Ask them what they care about. But don't just ask them what they care about politically. Ask them about their life.
Yeah.
Ask them how they've been navigating the pandemic.
Right.
Ask them about what makes them nervous.
Right.
Ask them about what gives them, what's made them encouraged, what's made them discouraged. Find out what's going on. Find out if perhaps their family is one of the ones that has had a certain kind of experience with perhaps government services, with public health, who knows, and that experience has led them to be leaning more in one direction or another. If I don't ask about what's going on in somebody's life, I can make all kinds of assumptions about why I think someone is doing something, but we don't know enough. We have to own our ignorance, and out of that ignorance, decide to address that ignorance by being people of perhaps greater curiosity. And not just greater curiosity, but I think also being willing to say, well, even the people that might think I am on a completely different page, maybe even different planet from them, it's important for them to see that I'm going to be the one who is following this language of the second grace commandment, emphasized again in Romans 13, that love does no harm to its neighbor,
Yeah.
and that and if love does no harm to its neighbor, then I'm seeking the good of my neighbors, and that I really want people to know that this is what my disposition is. And if I'm willing to do that, then I think it may take time, but it will be a way of beginning to build trust, because you have a bunch of people who say, okay, our commitment is to make sure that people see that my bigger slogan than anything, when it comes to how I treat others, is love does no harm to its neighbor. And if that's the case, then how am I seeking God to help me to demonstrate that in my different relationships, in the way that I communicate, perhaps especially on social media, and in the way that I put energy towards certain kinds of public commitments.
Yeah. How's your Wheaton student body handling this political environment and also the pandemic? And maybe
Sure.
those are two different things too. I just wondered about Wheaton.
Yeah,
How's Wheaton looking at some of these things?
sure. So a couple of things. One I would say is, thankfully the pandemic has been navigated very well. Our COVID planning team has worked very hard since last March, and they came up with a plan for how we would have the great majority of students on campus this fall. How we would try to, like many other campuses, create a sort of bubble type of variety of experience. Masks. Like I've got a couple of masks
Right,
right
right,
here.
right.
You know, um, so if I go out of my office, or if a student comes to my office, I wear a mask. If I'm walking around campus, I wear a mask. I can take my mask off if I'm 6 feet away from somebody while I'm sitting down. Students had to have a negative COVID test to move on campus and to be in classes. And certain things like with the conservatory, some of those people have to take tests every week. If you live off campus, you have to take a test every week. And the way it's worked out is we've had less than 10 cases total among students,
Okay.
and I think 2 among faculty and staff. It's amazing. So it's worked out really well. We've got 3.5 weeks to go before students go home the week before Thanksgiving. And
Okay.
then the last 2 weeks of class are online, because, Thanksgiving is a great opportunity for all kinds of super spreader events. So
Right.
staying home after that is just, I think, wisdom. So it's gone better than I would have imagined, honestly. So that's been great. In terms of the political climate, there have been a variety of activities being pursued by student government organizations, other student activity organizations,
right.
And different groups on campus. Last Wednesday, I hosted Justin Gibney from the AND campaign as the Center for Applied Christian Ethics event. It was closed to campus, but it was by Zoom because he's from Georgia. So he would have had to quarantine for 14 days if he showed up. So we couldn't have him live on campus. But it went really well. Got good feedback.
You say he was from Georgia?
He's from Georgia, yes.
Okay.
And we've had a lot of other programs. So we're trying to cultivate an environment where people are willing to, one, hey, you have opportunity to vote, but also encourage people in their engagement with each other to actually have conversation. It's hard to know how that's all working out, because one of the things that's happened with, people wearing masks and with some kind of limitations of the movement in different ways, you don't have some of the same out in the open types of situations where people are just running to each other in the cafeteria, or you're having public events where there's Q&A and stuff going on and there are lots of people there. So when I have that, so that kind of makes it harder, I think, to get a sense of what the barometer is. There are obviously students, I think, across the spectrum who are concerned. Right. Conservative students are concerned. More progressive students are concerned. People, I think, in between are concerned. But we are trying to cultivate an environment where people are wanting to live well together. So I'm hoping we're going to, after the election, be people who are seeking to walk together, no matter what the results are, remembering what the things that God gives us to do don't change on the basis of what happens at the ballot box.
I just remember in the past, maybe I told you I went to the grad school there at Wheaton, and other times I've been up to Wheaton. Many times they've had political speakers at this time of year from various persuasions. I remember George McGovern was there once. That's a long time ago.
A long time ago. Wow. That's right.
I think Mark Hatfield spoke there, and when he was anti-war, and Jesse Jackson spoke there. And others I know, I think Gerald Ford was there. I mean, in the past, they've drawn people to come.
Well, and I've invited people. I had an event where Dan Coates was actually part of it.
He's an alumni, right?
Yes. Dan Coates and a representative from California, Vic Fazio. They had a conversation together. It was great. That was one of my first year as director. Center for Applied Christian Ethics. Have had Michael Gerson on campus a number of times.
Yeah, he's a signer of this letter too. This initiative.
Yeah. So I've also had very conservative people. I mean, I hosted Michelle Bachmann several years ago. That was, that went fine. So we've had all kinds of people.
I know there's been many people. I'm sure, but this is limited to probably just Zoom, like you said. That's
well, I mean, the people I'm talking about, that was all like
that was a while ago. I mean, right now you're just into the Zoom mode.
Pretty much all events on campus have been someone who's been across the virtual veil. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I wish we could have people on campus, but it's just harder to negotiate all that, and particularly with the limitations that Chicago is placing on travel, and talking about quarantine.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
So we and Wheaton is following basically the guidance of the city of Chicago.
Do you have a chapel there?
Or yes. But people are tuning in to chapel.
They are what now?
Tuning in, watching it.
Oh, that's what I meant. That's sort of like a Zoom thing.
I don't know. We have 2,500 students that, or 2,000 like undergrads. They are not in Edmond Chapel for chapel. People are doing things in small groups on Wednesdays.
Okay.
Wednesdays is when you have more like a quote unquote normal Wheaton chapel, and then you have a shorter chapel on Friday. But all those are broadcast. I'm speaking next Wednesday actually in chapel.
Hey.
So that's
next Wednesday
for everybody who watches
the election. You can give us your perspective after the election.
I will do my best.
We
Of course, we have no idea when we're going to know what the results are,
but we might not know.
we also don't know, and this is a big question for me, is how many people are actually going to really be at the polls? Because I know there's a lot of early voting.
Yeah.
I think COVID has a lot to do with that.
Right.
That is no guarantee that we're going to get more than the 60% that we got last time. That's because there are people talking about how look at these numbers of people that are voting early. It's like, well, yeah, but we still don't know who's actually going to go to the polls next Tuesday.
Right.
So is it just that those people who would have gone to the polls decided to go early, or are there people who have got off, the couch and decided, all right, I'm an eligible voter. I decided I'm going to do this. Are you going to have the 18 to 35 demographic say, you know what, our demographic is finally going to represent, and more of us are going to show up? We won't know. We don't know right now.
Well, they're at about 70 million now, and they say it might get to 100, and then they expect
we'll see
150 or more million, and that would they're just expecting this could be the highest in 100 years on percentage of eligible voters.
I know, but
I know what you're saying too. You just don't know.
I just need to see what happens.
Yeah, well, I did. My vote's in. I want to tell you, my vote's in, and it says it's in
mine.
the tank.
I sent mine in about 2 weeks ago.
Mine's in the tank. They said they checked it off on their computer.
Mine's been processed as well. Yeah. So I think in Illinois, I think our votes do get counted once they get turned in. Whereas there's some other states.
I don't think they get counted. I think they're in the tank. And then they're just automatically put in at 7 p.m. on Tuesday. That's what the clerk said.
So process means we got it, and we know that you voted, but we'll put it in the machines on election day. Okay.
No, I guess they're in the machines. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they're in the computer. I don't know, but it doesn't get counted technically till. And I heard that from the page clerk too. So they had a big clerk thing on in Aurora a few weeks ago, and I heard.
Well, I am curious about how that part's going to work out, because in some states people are saying all the early voting, doing the counting of that is going to take beyond what happens next Tuesday.
Well, I think they're ready for the counting, so. Yeah. In certain areas, it might be. It just depends how you're prepared, and the county clerks are. It's each county and how much the states put in, and they were hoping for federal money. I don't think it ever came, and so I just want to thank you for stopping by and being with us and just chatting about the upcoming election and how we can work together better in our community, our Christian community. And I just appreciate it. And remember, hey, next Wednesday, and go to that Wheaton College link, and we'll hear what your thoughts are after the election. Just a couple of quick things there. VNA in Aurora is offering free flu shots on Fridays, and that's through the Thanksgiving, and they're also going to offer free flu shots right at their sites too. And remember the ongoing COVID-19 tests there too. You just got to give them a call for that. And remember tomorrow, Salvation Army little gathering was going to have an open house because of the pandemic. It was going to be outside still, but they've canceled that. They've canceled their outside grand opening in Aurora here in their new facility. It's really nice. So hopefully we'll see you on Friday, everybody. And I just thank you. And we're just going to thank Dr. Vince again for being with us here today, and wish him well, and wish the Wheaton College campus and everybody the best there. Thank you, Dr. Vincent. Thank you so much for being with me today. And God bless everybody out there. And we'll see you hopefully on Friday, Lord willing. Bye-bye now. God bless. Bye-bye.